Welcome to The Good Pod. Today's podcast is presented by Dr. Barry Napier. If you'd like more information, please visit our website, christiandoctrine.com.
Let's look at non-conformity. In broad terms, anyone who does not comply with a set of demands is a non-conformist. But the historical definition is religious. Protestants who dissented from the Anglican Church were called non-conformists, though the title could also apply to any dissent by Protestants. Non-conforming Protestants tend to be in non-denominational churches, and many claim to follow Scripture rather than man-made ideas, though even this idea is blurred nowadays by traditionalism and Reformationism. The movement referred to as nonconformism mainly began after the restoration of the British monarchy in 1660, when Charles II took the throne, following the death of Oliver Cromwell. In 1662, the Act of Uniformity was decreed. This new law was established to force Anglicanism on all believers. It dictated how one should pray publicly, how the so-called sacraments should be taken, and imposed many other rites listed in the Book of Common Prayer. The law also made sure that those who dissented could not hold governmental or church office and could be imprisoned. John Bunyan fell foul of this law, much like a new law prescribed today by government to force Christians to obey the laws on homosexuality. From this time, pastors were required to be ordained, thus replacing the Puritan objection to this during the Cromwellian Civil War. In biblical reality, pastors and preachers do not need to be ordained by any official body, whether individual or corporate, church or state, Bible college or congregation. That's because it is God who ordains. In 1662, over 2,000 pastors refused to take the required oath, so they were cast out of the Anglican Church. This was known as the Great Ejection. It was refusal to conform to the new law that was usually called non-conformity. This refusal means that most Christians who rejected the Romanistic-style Anglican law were not given government or church positions for nearly 2 centuries. A similar draconian, false and evil demand is considered by the UK government. You will not get a job in local or national government, including becoming an MP, unless you swear an oath to uphold homosexual laws. Cromwell fought to remove this kind of wickedness using arms. Would anyone do that today? There were actually 4 sets of legislation, the Act of Uniformity being just one of them. The 4 together are called the Clarendon Code, named after the Earl of Clarendon, who was then the Lord Chancellor. The 3 other laws were the Corporation Act of 1661. All government officers had to take Anglican communion and reject the previous Solemn League and Covenant of 1643. This effectively barred nonconformists from holding office. The second one was the Conventicle Act of 1664. This made religious meetings of 5 or more people outside of Anglicanism illegal. It made non-conformist church meetings illegal. Something similar is actually going on now in America and the USA. And the UK, sorry. The 5 Mile Act in 1665, preventing former Anglican ministers who refused the code from coming within 5 miles of their former parishes, and any towns signed up to the code. Nor could they teach in schools. Do you recognize the same spirit now showing in modern governments? There was also the Test Act, which, with the Corporation Act, barred nonconformists from holding civil or military office and stopped them earning degrees from Oxford and Cambridge. Added to this was the Quaker Act of 1662, which demanded Quakers should swear an oath to the king, which they wouldn't do. This latter act is of no real concern, because Quakerism is not a genuine Christian group anyway. I suggest you read my book on that. But we can easily see the onerous godlessness of the various acts. The Toleration Act of 1688 or 1689 allowed a few nonconformists to hold meetings so long as they swore an oath of allegiance. It didn't apply to Catholicism, though. It took until 1872 for the Act of Uniformity to be partially amended. Nonconformist ministers could not meet in private homes and had to register and apply for licenses, much as in communist countries. The above is only a summary, as there was more to it than that, but essentially the Clarendon Code came about to lessen any influence by nonconformist ministers on the people, and to give strength to the Anglican Church, which was already Romanized in part and in principle. Even today, the media and the government regard the Anglican organization to be the voice of Christians, showing just how aggressive the code really was. Needless to say, no Christian can subscribe to such laws, nor should he bend to official ordinations or any other man-made requirement of pastors and preachers. The man called by God to speak needs no human interference, and a true pastor or preacher is not chosen by the people, he is chosen by God. The responsibility of the people is simply to hear the word and obey it, though they are also responsible for admonishing a speaker or teacher who strays outside of Scripture. Today there is a new breed of nonconformists, Christians who reject the traditionalism, the Reformationism and Arminianism in thousands of churches. Such dissenters should rather be alone for the rest of their lives than follow the herd of supposed Christians who have no discernment. They prefer genuine personal prayer to collective prayer, which is almost always false. Sadly, today, many Christians have digested the falsity in their own churches, because it is easier to go along with everyone else than to stand up and be counted. Dissenters are much needed today.